Toss aside the touchy-feely notions of love in business and recognize the real power it holds. Welcome to the Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast with host Steve Farber. Drawing on his work with a wide variety of companies from the Fortune 100 to smaller family-owned businesses, Farber shares inspiring interviews with business leaders and proven strategies for how you can create experiences that your customers will love by developing a culture that your employees, teammates, and colleagues love working in. Discover why and how love, at the end of the day, is just damn good business for you too. Here's your host, Steve Farber.
Hi, this is Steve Farber, and welcome to another episode of the Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast. You can find this podcast in all of its forms, audio, video, and full transcription at stevefarber.com/podcast. Thanks for tuning in. My guests today are Mitch Luciano and Indy Bollman from a company called Trailer Bridge. Mitch is the president and CEO. Indy is the VP of Organizational Development with the HR function and all that good stuff, leadership development. Those are her bailiwicks. If you have followed me on social media or read my most recent book, Love is Just Damn Good Business, of course, the same name as this podcast, you will have heard about Trailer Bridge. I've talked about them extensively. I've written about them, done a couple of videos, etc. They're just an incredible company. They do shipping and logistics out of Jacksonville, Florida, and they've been around for 30 or so years, have made it onto best place to work lists, and come from a history that is, let's just say, less than stellar. And Mitch and Indy and the team there have turned that company around and turned it into a phenomenal place to work and a place to do business with. So we've got a lively conversation for you. Mitch, Indy, and myself talking about Love is Just Damn Good Business at Trailer Bridge. Enjoy. Mitch and Indy, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here. It's great to see you guys.
Thank you for having us. It's great to see you as well.
Thank you. Now, people that have been following my work, that have been to our events before, have seen my social media stuff. They've heard. Likely have heard the Trailer Bridge story, but I don't want to assume that everybody has. So I'd like to hear it again because it's an incredible story of turnaround and evolution and resilience. And you guys are such a great model of love, energy, audacity, and proof. You know, the Radical Leap framework in action. But I'd love to hear it in your words. So Mitch, let me start with you because you already had jumped in the stream before Indy came along. So talk a little bit about those dark early days.
Dark early days. You know, I joined Trailer Bridge. A bunch of us did. There's approximately 9 of us back in November 9th of 2012. Specifically remember the day. It was a Friday. We came on board in, obviously Trailer Bridge is a ocean transportation company, and we came on board to really drive their new logistics group. And so I came on as a VP of logistics, and in those first 2 years I spent there, it was challenging. It was the times of somebody in what's, thank God we don't have it anymore, in an HR department asking me, why am I smiling? And my response is, what are my options? You want me to walk around all pissed off at the world? And so it's just, that was one example of many. It was very...
So you got asked that question because smiles were just not normally seen around there?
The people that had worked there for many years, the smiles were gone. They were concerned every day, was this going to be another day of layoffs? Were they going to get cut back? And the biggest mistake most companies make is they cut the people who actually do the work instead of the people who sit above that, right? And so you get the very little impact to the financials from a cost savings, huge impact from a revenue. So at that time, we had 4 different CEOs in my 2 years there, 2 as roles of consultants and 2 as actual CEOs. And it was all had a different philosophy, all had a different way of doing things. 3 of the 4 commuted. They would come in from different parts of the country. And so you didn't really get to know the people on the weekends or build any kind of relationship with the team. And I remember sitting back on, there's no way. You just can't pull this off on a company that back in 2011 had filed bankruptcy and was in over $100 million of debt for a $100 million company. This just won't work. These consultants are just making their $30,000 a month or whatever it was, and showing up on a Monday afternoon and leaving out on a Thursday morning kind of thing. And it was difficult to watch and just sit back.
How old was the company at that time? It had been around for.
It started in 90, technically incorporated in 91, the first sailing in 92. So we were 20 plus years old, just over 20 years old. A company that had gone through all kinds of changes in its past life, from private to public to private to you name it. They went through it for such a small organization. It was quite shocking. And it was dark times. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of times I sat at my desk going, as a VP logistics, I sat on the floor. So I got to hear things that were going on. Right. And it was challenging. There was many days I go home and be like, did I find the right spot? I don't think I found the right spot. I wanted a place, because in my personal life, I was going through some challenges, and my ex and I were getting a divorce, and I wanted to find a place that I could focus on my kids, make sure the most important thing. And I got this place that's bringing me down too. I'm like, wait, what is going on? But we were fortunate that those 9 people we had, they just remained positive. We had a job to do, and they only knew one thing, and it was success. And we were going to be successful in building out that logistics group, and hopefully set an example for other teams. It was.
So was it as a result of what you did with the logistics group that the board came to you and tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Hey, how'd you like to be our next CEO?" I mean, is that how?
But at the time, we still had one of the interim CEOs was still there, and it was on 2 years later, almost to a T. It was Thanksgiving week in November 2014, and I'll never forget, one of our chairmen called me and asked me a question about a customer that our ocean customer, unrelated to logistics, that they wanted to get rid of. And I was like, no, you don't. And I gave him the reasons why. He goes, exactly. And so I get the story today that some of the other board members, they were not in for it. They were like, really? This is a logistics guy. I don't know about this. But our chairman was so adamant about it. He's like, what the hell do we have to lose? And so they called me when I was in California, taking a break, and they gave me a shot. I thought they were going to fire me. Honestly, I was like, oh, they're about to fire me. They realized the logistics group runs great even without me. And so they did it. They offered me the president's role, reporting to the board, the chairman, and to the interim CEO who we had at the time. So that was in November 14. And then in March of 15 is when they let the CEO go, and they offered me that role. And I said, no, thank you. No, thank you. And they were stunned. They were really actually upset. And I was like, no, this title has a bad reputation in this building, and I don't want the title, because I have to continue to establish who I am with the rest of the company.
So you took on essentially the function of CEO at that point, but not the title?
Not the title. Not till December of 15 is when they offered me a board seat, and I said yes. And they said, but you have to be the CEO. And I'll never forget, I was in New York City at a board meeting. It was the end of the board meeting, and I said, I'll have to think about it. And I walked out of the building. I'm walking down Park Avenue, going to our hotel room. Our now chief financial officer, Nate Coverdale, he looked at me and goes, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? And then he said something that immediately changed my mind. He goes, these guys, if you don't take it, they could put a CEO in over you. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. I better take this, because do we want to be reporting to somebody else? Like, no, I don't want to do that. And I think at that point, we had established some credibility with the Trailer Bridge team. That was very, very important to me. At that point, Indy, I believe you were on by then, in the middle of 2015. And so we had really it took us a year, and I kept saying it was going to take us 3 years to really establish trust and credibility. So I thought it was a good time.
So Indy, you came on board after Mitch had taken on the president role.
I did.
And what was it about given the kind of the history and past of the company, what was it about the opportunity for you that drew you in?
Well, I think, when Mitch and I first met, and it was over a cup of coffee, actually, I was looking for a new role, and a director of HR role actually is what I was looking for in the area. And we met, and it felt like if 5 minutes, even if it was 5 minutes that passed, I understood very, very clearly what he wanted to do. And, I understood kind of the heart of the matter, how he wanted to accomplish it. And so I was really jazzed about it. And it seemed to work. I got him and I knew where he wanted things to go. And I said, which was kind of weird in an interview to say to someone, I'm your girl. I think I'm the one. And fortunately, he agreed not too long after. And so in July of 2015 is when I joined as director of HR. And I found out subsequently there had been 4 HR directors in the previous 4 years. So not that would have changed my mind, but you didn't mention that, Mitch. I wouldn't just say in the interview.
Sorry.
But that's okay. I was undaunted and just really, really excited to see roll out. I didn't know the specifics of how we were going to do that, but I knew the impact that coming at a team and having leadership lead from the heart, I knew what that could do, and was just very excited to work somewhere that would just let that go, let it fly and let it happen.
So you said you got in that first meeting over coffee, you got what it was that he was trying to do. What was it that he was trying to do? How would you characterize that now?
Very clearly, he wanted to create a work atmosphere that people genuinely were happy and loved what they did. And you can't lose with that. I mean, that's a win-win all the way around. And so I think it was not only an exciting and new industry for me, but I understood, wow, this is what this looks like. This is someone that wants to take a group of people. And he did tell me some of the history and kind of where they were in terms of morale and some of the things that had happened with the company. But to turn the company around, Mitch was very clear. He wanted to turn around how people felt about their jobs there every day. And that was pretty exciting stuff for me.
So Mitch was the guy that people used to ask him, what the hell are you smiling about?
Found out about that later too, by the way. But he's right. There weren't not a whole lot of smiles and laughter when I joined, even though, as he mentioned, he had begun to start the turnaround with a great group of core people. I think the team at large, and certainly the leadership philosophy at large, hadn't really quite come together yet. And I understood from him as well, and in my early experience, that kind of had to gel and work together. And so we started putting smiles on faces by focusing on the people.
So just to bring us up to speed on that story so far, there was a time where to say that people were not happy in their jobs and did not love working there is an understatement, right? In fact, where a smile was something to be called out.
Yep.
then Mitch, you're given the opportunity to take the helm, because part of the motivation was, as I believe you said, what the hell do we have to lose?
True. Very true.
Give it to the logistics guy. Let's see what he can do. And so from that outset, did you have it really clear in your mind that, when you were given the reins, as it were, that you knew exactly what you wanted to do with the culture? Or was it something that you kind of grew into?
I would probably tell you something we grew into. I knew the first thing we had to do was change the attitude. And part of that was changing the people. That was going to be the number one thing. It's no matter what we did from a business principle aspect or marketing or customer acquisition or any of that stuff, I had to change the mindset of the people that sat in the room every single day and worked with customers and vendors. And so we had to bring some excitement. People had to feel, and we joke about this, had to feel like their job was sexy. I mean, we ship containers. How sexy is that? But we had to find a way. So they woke up in the morning and they were excited about going to work. We've all had that job where you wake up and you're like, oh my God, maybe I should call in sick today, or I really want to do this. So people get them excited. And I'll never forget, I told Indy, because it was Starbucks on 3rd Street in Jack's Beach, and within 5 minutes, we both knew. She's 100% correct. And I told her, I was like, you're going to scare the hell out of these people. You're going to come in with your bundle of energy and it's going to scare them, and I'm going to watch it and I'm going to love it. And so she did. First day, hey, everybody, how you doing today? I was like, oh, here it comes. And people were coming into my office like, what is she doing? Why is she's in HR? Why is she so excited? What is it like?
Yeah,
So
she's making eye contact. Yeah.
exactly, like, oh, Eddie's coming. I got to run to the bathroom, kind of thing, right? So we knew that we had to change, and so in those first 2 years, we had 56% turnover of people. We knew we were going to have to do that because it was part of that. Well, that's not the way we've done it. And my response every time was, well, that drove you into bankruptcy, so we have to do things differently. And so and they always said, well, how do you know this is going to work? I was like, I don't. I know though that if I have really happy employees and a happy family and they see us all equal, no one's some CEO or president, I go out and have a beer with them or have lunch with them, everyone's the same, then we will drive something special here. And it worked. It worked.
So Indy, what I infer from what you just said is that HR, given that they burned through 4 heads of HR in saying, a short period of time before you got there, HR had a certain reputation inside the company and you didn't fit the mold.
No, I didn't.
So what was the mold that you?
The mold was gossip and no smiles, as Mitch said. And I think there was just a lack of energy and really not sure people were excited about what they were doing, and certainly not excited about what Trailer Bridge was about and how they service and take care of people. And I think I've always seen the HR function as a service to employees. It's there to help them. It's not there to control or dictate. We're not standing around with a little pad of, making notes on things. It's the opposite, just the opposite. How do we take care of them and help drive that culture of them being happy at, what they do and knowing that they have someone to go to? So there was some resistance early on with the existing staff at the time to kind of make that change. I think they may have had many years of being used, even way before Mitch joined the group, just being able to kind of dictate and create maybe even a little fear with some of the people that they were being watched, and checked. And so I just kind of just completely pulled that rug out from under everything and said, no, we're here to take care of them. We're definitely not here to get anyone in trouble. It's not our function.
Yeah. So Mitch, when you said, okay, we need to make this a place that people are excited about coming to work, they love working here. People, smiles on the faces are more the norm versus the aberration. What did you do? I mean, specifically, what did you do to begin to change, as you call it, to change the mindset there?
Yeah, probably one of the very first things we did, and it was right after Indy had come on board, because that first half of the year was, really trying to get to know the people. Is we asked them what they wanted from Trailer Bridge. What is your expectation from Trailer Bridge? And they gave it to us, and that became our TB12. And so everyone thought that the executives sat in a room and came up with the TB12, and that wasn't the case at all.
That's your set of values, the corporate
set of values that we have. Absolutely. And they're all over in every single office we have, and they're all over the building. And that's really important to us. And some of the values connect more with others than other values. And that's the point. And so then not only what do you expect Trailer Bridge to do for you, what do you need from us? And then they started saying this is, I know we joke about that. I've joked about this before. The ice machine, this damn ice machine was some of the things, was one of the very first suggestions we got. And I'll never forget, a couple of days went past and I'm asking around, has anyone ordered that ice machine yet? Has anyone ordered that ice machine yet? And no one did. So I got online and I ordered the ice machine and we had it installed. And that little nugget, and no pun intended, was the key to like the next step. They're like, oh my God, he really fulfilled what he said he was going to do. And so that was the next step and I told all the leadership, you say you're going to do something, you better damn do it, because they're watching us like a hawk. They're waiting us. That one mistake will set us back. And so then we had to commit, but we also had to be upfront and say sometimes we can't do that. This is something this isn't possible. I did little things like the new furniture that came in. It was cut down all the old, very high queue, can't see anyone. They hide in there and they're probably on the internet or I don't know what they're doing. So we cut down that. People were pissed about that, but now they love it, right? Because now they like actually hang out with each other. They love the camaraderie right there. People wanted 2 computer monitors. I'm like, well, get them 2 computer monitors. What is this such a big deal? And so we did that. So we just started just started every little piece, and it just compiled and compiled and compiled. And then I think when they saw the results from the customers sending them emails thanking them for amazing things they've done, they're like, oh, this is pretty cool. I like this. I like the people I'm hanging out with. They get to sit in on interviews and also interview people, not just the manager. Other people get to make decisions on it. So all those little pieces added up to, what we have been fortunate enough to be the best place to work. And it's incredible.
So when you ask them what do you want from Trailer Bridge, I'm hearing two categories. Well, there's a few things. First of all, that you guys were willing and eager to ask the question, which they had never been asked before, I'm assuming. But also there were two categories. One is the things that they were important to them that led to the set of values, and the other were tangible things,
Right.
like two computer monitors,
Yeah.
an ice maker, different furniture, place to hang out with each other, that kind of a thing. So there's
Right.
kind of the material category and the values category. And they're related to each other, because what you just said is if we tell people we're going to get them another computer monitor or an ice machine, we have to make sure that we do it. Just like when we say, what's one of the TB12? Give me one example.
Honesty and integrity.
Honesty and integrity. That's an example of honesty and integrity, right? So if we say that honesty and integrity is important, and then I tell you we're going to fulfill your desire, your deep, profound desire for an ice machine,
Yep.
we're going to make it happen. So what that's doing is building credibility. Go ahead, Indy.
I was just going to say, when I came on board, the ice machine issue had begun. And I will never forget my first week. There was all this activity around this ice machine, and I could not figure out what is going on with this ice machine. And so it was really funny. I found out later from Mitch that he had begun to open up, open suggestions. You guys, as he mentioned, you guys, wide open, tell us what you want. He said, I can't give you everything, but we'll do what's reasonable and seems, to help the culture and the morale here and make this a better place. And so even when I came on board, the onslaught of suggestions was, pages and pages long, and it took a while. But to Mitch's credit, he would go over every single one. And we had some humdingers, which we won't go over here, but he had some really...
Beer Pong Friday? No, sorry.
Wine and customer service Wednesday. Yep. It was all those.
What was the Wednesday one? I missed it.
Wine and customer service Wednesdays. Yes, we had that one. So he couldn't say yes to all of them. And I'm not even sure that really mattered. I think, Steve, as you pointed out, what really mattered was genuinely asking the question to hear the answer. And when something was committed to, we did it. And that continues right now. And you're right, that was a different subject than what are the attributes you want from leadership and from each other here. And that absolutely formed the TB12.
So on the one hand, in changing the whole experience of working there, changing the culture over time, there's these tangible things that you could point to. But did you ever lay it out as a spoken objective to the entire company? It says we want to change Trailer Bridge from X into Y, or did you just go about the work of doing it?
It probably takes a little bit of both, I think, because every month we have town halls. And so I think within the town hall, we would outline some things we're doing specifically to change the culture and change the company in the direction we're heading. Did we ever come out with some big strategy, business plan, release it to the employees? No, it was pieces at a time. And it was what are we working on?
Talking about a strategy or a business plan, more of an intent. Did you ever state the intent?
We knew we had to change the way honestly, it was the fear. And we knew they were fearful. We knew it. Every day they came in, they wouldn't voice their opinion sometimes because, the previous leadership would, ridicule them if it was something that maybe it wasn't the greatest idea, but some of the best opportunities they don't come across as the greatest idea. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait a second, that could be something there. That could be special. So we did, but not in a broad blanket statement. It was pieces at a time. We would outline and tell them, what we're doing. We knew the culture sucked. We said that out loud. We know many of you are looking for jobs right now. I remember one of those first town halls. I don't know if it was Indy, you were there yet, but I'll ask, give me a chance. And if you don't like it, and the next 3 to 6 months are down the road, then I will be more than glad to work with you on your exit strategy. I'm perfectly open to that, but at least give it a chance.
Did anybody leave?
The ones that, there's the one town hall. I was like, there's 3 or 4 of you, you know exactly who you are, that are rotten eggs in this building. And the very next day, one of them resigned that very next morning. And so either you fix it or I'm going to send you out soon. And so the very next day, one of them left. And so we had some of those that knew they were not going to be part of the strategy going forward. They just knew it. It's like, this is not what I want. And so they left on their own.
And if I could add to that, I mean, I think this broad sweeping just intention was definitely, we want to win here. We have a great opportunity. We have enormous potential, but we're just not going to get there with the culture that we have right now. So the intention, which he said very clearly many times, we have to be better in how we treat each other, how we treat our customers. We have to be better in the story that we tell to the market, to, who we are, what we stand for, and that's how we're going to win, and never go backwards. And I remember, Mitch, that was so clear in your messages when I joined, this is how we've always done it, as he was mentioning a minute ago. That doesn't fly anymore. We're moving forward. And honestly, I think with a great amount of love, we want you all on board with us. Please be with us, because this is the direction we're going in.
So with the so-called rotten eggs, I'm just trying to imagine, maybe it's because I'm biased, maybe it's because just my own perspective on the world. Why would anybody resist being a part of the culture that you were trying to create? Why would anybody resist building a place that people love working in? What's going on with these folks where they would say, this ain't for me?
I've been asked that question a lot, right? It's always, and it seems even to this day, it's like there's this rotten egg seat in our company and someone's got to go sit in it. I'm like, why do you have to sit in that? Like, what, why? Like, it doesn't have to be filled. I want to get rid of the chair altogether, but someone always has to sit in it. And I think, honestly, it has nothing to do with Trailer Bridge. I think in genuine, and I hate saying this, I think some people are they're just not happy with life. It has nothing to do with Trailer Bridge. I think it's other parts of life, and they don't want to come, if I'm miserable, I want all of you to be miserable with me. And so then they go, this isn't for me. These people are too happy. And this just drives me crazy. I don't know why people have to do that, but there are people in the world that have to do that. It's just the way it is.
I think it would add too is there was a lack of trust. And so they saw this breath of fresh air, new ways that we're doing things, that we're going about it. And I don't think they were really trusting that would, that leadership would see that through. They were thinking maybe we'll just keep our head down and let this latest and greatest idea pass from people before all of us. But I think that's another piece of doing what we said we were going to do. We had to build that trust.
And one of the things that you guys did was you encouraged the sharing of information versus the hoarding of information, right?
Yeah, that was a big piece. A lot of people were hoarders, and we'd ask them to put stuff on, do me a favor, show me the process, put it on a piece of paper. And they wouldn't do it. And I was like, listen, if you don't, I'm going to have to let you go. And it's going to be painful, but this isn't rocket science here. You don't have the secret recipe. We'll figure this out. And we would have to we did that occasionally. And that actually sent a message, a clear message, that even somebody who had several years at the company that had all this knowledge and was valuable because of only that one primary reason, they had all this in their head, that we were willing to take the risk to say it's more important to us as an organization down the road that we work together and share instead of sit in an office and hoard. And when that happened, there's a lot of people. I mean, there's several people that were very upset when we got rid of some key individuals, but it was always fine. Like 6 months, maybe 12 months down the road, I know Indy would have to get these calls. I get these calls like, Man, I got to tell you, I know I was really upset back then, but now that we had this far removed from it, this was what a great decision you guys made. And you're like, thanks. We don't take these lightly, obviously, but they saw it down the road, and that meant a lot.
Yeah, they saw too. They saw us try very hard to get those people to be part of where we were going. It wasn't just, go. It was, hey, we want this, all of you. We want to work together. And I think ultimately there were just some people that were not going to change for whatever reason, as we've already discussed.
So I think it's a really important point, because a lot of times, when we talk about building an environment that people love working in, this whole love is just damn good business approach to things. The implication for some people, the way some people interpret that is, well, that means lowering our standards. It means if because we want people to love working here, that means it's like everything's cool. Do it however you want to do it, as long as you're happy. Just and what you're talking about here is the tough love side of the equation. That there's love for individuals, but I could love you and fire you because my love for the organization is going to take precedence over your individual experience, is what we're trying to do together. And oftentimes I would think, Indy, that HR gets put in the tough love seat because of the nature of the HR work, right?
Well, I think the overriding nature of our work, as I said, is to support the employees there. And sometimes that includes helping them when they leave. And so one thing I'm very proud of is that we try hard in nearly every circumstance to help someone leave so that they don't have a terrible transition. I mean, it's only in really difficult situations where we have very, very few actually that we're unable to help. But, for the vast majority of the time, we honestly love them right through when they leave, and try to help them as they transition out. And I think sometimes that's the most loving thing to do. And it doesn't sound that way, I guess, to most people until you look into it, because if someone is unhappy and they cannot thrive in the environment that you've created, they're never going to thrive. And so the decision comes, whether by them or by leadership, that, hey, this person is just not going to be able to, turn that engine on for us. They don't believe in what we're doing. It's heartbreaking to keep trying to have them succeed in an environment that they cannot. And even though feelings are hurt at that moment, to have them go find somewhere that they thrive and they're happy and there's nothing wrong with that environment, it's just not ours. I mean, that it may not seem the best example to everyone else at the time, but to Mitch's point, 6 months down the line, everybody honestly is happier, and the team usually is grateful that that action was taken, because honestly, it's hard for them to watch too.
Yeah.
Steve, you said something earlier about love and business, right? Some of the expectations, go away. And what's interesting, I don't know why people think that, because I think it's the exact opposite. When people really feel love with each other, your expectations and accountability rises. People like, I do not want to fail my teammates. I'm gonna do more than I should, and I don't know why. I mean, I have it when I talk about this outside of Trailer Bridge. They're like, yeah, love, really? That's all touchy. I go, no, it's not, because they don't want to fail any of us now. No one wants to fail. So they're going to work twice as hard to get something done. And if it means they got to log in on a Saturday, they're not complaining about it anymore. All those little things. And it's because they know we care and we love them, genuinely love them.
Yeah. And I think we've done a great job of establishing why we do what we do there, that it's to serve people, each other, certainly within our offices and within the company, but also how we serve people through what our company does every day. All companies serve people in some way, but getting clear on how ours does that, it's a big part of all of our training and bringing people on board at this point.
So earlier you said that people started to get notes from your customers.
Mm.
And what was interesting about that to me is you'd been talking about the changes that you made internally with developing your values and making sure that people are heard and getting what they need, and having a free forum to to express their ideas and ask for things, etc. But you didn't say anything about what you did specifically for customers. You just said that they started to get notes from customers. So what's the connection between what you were working on internally and the experience that your customers had?
So I know this will simplify, but you've heard me say this before. And I change it up every time a little bit, but happy employees equals happy customers equals happy owners, or good results. You know what I mean? It's really basic and simple, but we knew, and we use the example all the time. If when you're calling your credit card company or your cable company and you get that person on the other end of the phone, you know within the first 5 seconds of interacting with them whether they like their job or not. You do, at least they pretend like they like their job. But I mean, you can hear and feel that smile on their face. And so we knew if we had to build that culture of genuine love and positivity inside a Trailer Bridge. And then people are attracted to that. Like customers they're making decisions going, okay, so maybe Trailer Bridge is a little more expensive than their competition. But for, 3 percentage points, do I want to deal with, John Smith over at the competition, or do I want to deal with Ann Jones at Trailer Bridge? I was like, I want to deal with Ann Jones. There's no doubt. And they go the extra mile. And so Trailer Bridge used to be the company of no. It was very specific what we did. And so I said, no more no's. If you don't have the answer, we may go back and say we're unable to do that. But anything the customer needs, we will find a solution because this is what we do. And so
so give me an example. What was a fairly typical no that you had to say to people in the old days?
So is there any way you can pick up this shipment tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock instead of tomorrow at 4 o'clock? Well, typically we have drivers. We have truck drivers, company drivers. Well, not company drivers. We have drivers. And if there's some physical limitations for a driver to get to certain locations sometimes, maybe he couldn't be there at 9, but maybe that driver can be there at 1. So you can offer that, or we have this logistics group over here that we created that maybe we can pick up the shipment with a different driver, bring it into Jacksonville, and then put it in one of our containers. So there's solutions. So no, we can't do that. Turns into, hey, if you want our driver to be the one to pick it up, we can be there at 1. Or we can get there at 9 o'clock in the morning, but it's not going to be one of our drivers. It's going to be a contracted driver. We're going to bring it into Jacksonville and we're going to put it in our container. So those are like but the nuances of just no is so much easier sometimes, but that wasn't an opportunity. So customers started paying attention, started listening. And then we expanded that out into customer outings and getting to know people and getting to know them personally. We built an account manager program where you just don't know their name. You know their spouse's name, you know their dog's name, you know their kid's name, you know their birthday, you know everything about that person. The first 2 minutes of conversation should be about how their daughter's volleyball game went last night, not about work, unless they're really busy and they want to get right to work, but get to know them. That's your extended family as well. And that's really what made a difference.
I'd like you to tell me a story, please. I've heard this story before and it's one of my favorites. If you recall, it's the story of one of your customers who, I'm trying to remember the details. The truck was one, and the other one was something about going somewhere for a job interview.
I think that was the young man with the car.
Yeah, that was, so there's a lot of the population from Puerto Rico that moves in the States goes to I-4 corridor outside of Orlando. I don't know what it is, but a lot of them move there. And so the gentleman had interviewed for a job, I believe over the phone. I don't know that he ever traveled here, and he got the job. And so he had to move his car and his personal belongings, which he put in a suitcase.
From Puerto Rico
got here
to
Puerto Rico to Jacksonville. And so he paid around $250 to Trailer Bridge to move the car up. So he got his car, he drove to Orlando for his first day of work. He got to work and they said, oh, we're sorry, we rescinded the offer. We couldn't get a hold of you. So that was all the money he had. He had nothing left. So he had to move back to Puerto Rico, but he needed his car. And he showed up back at I think it was our front desk. I was like, hey, I just had my car shipped from Puerto Rico up here. This is probably 3 or 4 days later. I need to have it shipped back. Well, shipping things south is a lot more expensive than shipping things north. And so our typical car rate is say $800. And so they quoted him 800, not knowing the story. And then he shared, can't recall who he shared the story with. There's somebody down there, and they started talking to them. And he shared this story, and that person immediately came up to my office and said, hey, I've got this young kid downstairs. He shipped his car with us. He's got to go back. He has no money. He's like, you can just tell he was just destroyed. And I mean, he was a dream to find a good job in Orlando. He's just destroyed. And I was like, we'll ship the car back for free. And she looked at me. I remember who it was. And she looked at me. She goes, are you serious? I go, well, you just told me he had no money. So what am I going to charge him $50? If he really has no money, we have to trust it. I mean, to us, what is the difference to us if we have the space? To him, it gets him home, right? And it gets his car home, which he's probably going to need for another job in Puerto Rico. And so that was, it's not the first time, and it's not the last time we've done stuff like that. It was the right thing to do. And that's one of the things we always preach to people. Sometimes it's not the easiest thing, but it's the right thing.
Did you ever hear back from him or his family after he made it back to Puerto Rico?
Well, I know when they got down there, his mother contacted, I believe, somebody down the Puerto Rico ports and was incredibly thankful for what we did for her son.
So you said that nowadays people they'll pay an extra few percentage points to work with Trailer Bridge.
Yep.
But in the old days, you guys were kind of like the discount place, right?
Oh yeah, cheap.
Because that was the only way you could get the business, or what?
That's the reason they went into bankruptcy. It was more important to fill up the barge with containers than get the right rate for the container, and we changed that model immediately.
So I want to jump forward to today for a little bit, and then I want to back up again. So what if I'm putting all this together and I don't know the kind of the statistics, the numbers of what's happened to Trailer Bridge recently? I'm going to guess, well, if you're charging more than you used to and you're getting these great customer responses, that it's showing up in the bottom line. It's showing up in the numbers. So tell us, spell that out for us. What happened after you started working on changing the culture and the customer experience and the employee experience? How did it show up in the Trailer Bridge balance sheet, as it were?
I mean, we as an organization obviously had some amazing years there. 17, 18, 19 was just killer. Probably the best 3 years, I think probably greater than all the years combined previously. It was that good. The years were that good. The revenue didn't grow a ton, obviously. I mean, it grew a little bit, but it gave us the opportunity. The profits were there to reinvest into Trailer Bridge and grow logistics and start these. So we have a government division now. We have an NVOCC, which is basically an international freight broker. We have our logistics group has grown tremendously over the past few years. And then the ocean business is our stable stock and the heart of who we are. That's why I always say Puerto Rico Ocean is the heart of who we are. We've grown our Dominican business. We have a New Mexico division. I mean, it's just all these things has transpired because we became profitable. We pay down our debt. We have zero debt. When I say zero, like zero debt, we have a ton of cash on the balance sheet. I mean, it's just like, and I'm spending money as fast as I can to grow these other businesses. And I keep going. I'm like, well, the number hasn't changed. We have the same amount of cash. I'm like, yeah, so we're making money over here to grow these ones over here. And so, Indy and I got the great opportunity today to sit down with the executive team, going over a plan for $750 million in revenue in 5 years, and actually 4 years. And 3 years ago, we were a $110 million company. I mean, what's exciting is a $110 million company with 110 employees. Now we're on a run rate of 220 million with 220 employees. I mean, we've doubled in size in 4 years, essentially. And most of that is in the last 2 years. And so we built the foundation, a balance sheet foundation, financials, rock solid. I mean, rock solid, to the point where people don't understand. Like this year, even 2020, I have one owner, and I love talking to him because he's always telling me, he goes, I own several other businesses, and I'm telling you right now, they're not making money. So I'm impressed. Like in 2020, you're making money. I'm really impressed with what you guys are doing. And so he just fascinated with what we did and how we did it. And I just said, and I've been asked this question several times. My answer is always the same. We went into 2020 with a solid foundation and a culture of caring. And so So when we went isolated into our offices or into our homes and stuff, work from home, we already had it. And so it wasn't a challenge for us to do this and continue to work with people. So I know you asked about the balance sheet. It's fantastic. It's impressive.
And also, Indy, you guys have had several awards now recognized in Jacksonville and other places as best place to work.
Absolutely. We have had a couple of number ones as best place to work. And also last year we were best place to work in Jacksonville, and also at Inc.com. We were one of their best places to work as well. And we have some other things. We've won some wellness awards and things like that. We got number one ocean carrier. I believe that was for 2019. That was a big one. We're very proud of that. And, to Mitch's point, we had that very, very, very solid foundation, which all began with paying attention to your people and what they need. And that carried us through a difficult year. And certainly our hearts went out to all the people in the businesses that have really had challenges this past year. But we just honestly pedal to the metal. We just said, oh no, we're going to come out the other side bigger and better, because we're just going to keep investing in our people and in the growth of the company. And here we are.
So how much of the workforce is working from home nowadays versus coming into the office?
I'd say we're about half, maybe.
Yeah, half and half. Yeah, I mean, some teams have to, like our mechanics, they got to be there. You can't be a mechanic from home. So some teams, so that kind of skews the numbers, but it's about 50-50.
And so are you having to do anything different or turn up the heat on certain things in order to keep the connection and keep the culture vibrant while people are spread out?
Everywhere we can.
Yeah, I mean, like it's just staying connected, right? I think when, we knew in the beginning that a lot of people that were going to work from home have never done it before. And unless you know how to do this, it can be, you got to have some discipline. You got to get up, take that shower, put on your work clothes. Like, maybe not fully dressed like you're going to the office, but, get to that desk, get quiet space. And I know it's very difficult for a lot of people, a lot of moms and dads that are kids they have to take care of. And so we knew that, and we worked with them. We said, hey, we understand. We're going to get you support. We're going to do, your kids, as simple as a lot of the kids didn't have laptops. Right. And the schools weren't giving them out. So we went and bought laptops for those kids in our family that didn't have those things. And so we wanted to take care of them, their families, right? Because when you're working, you're worried about your family. So help take care of their families. They'll do a better job for you, because then they have less worry on their plate.
What about from the training perspective? Because I know you got a lot of attention on training.
We have. I think that's one of the things that helped assist and support the turnaround back in 2015. Shortly after finding out what everybody was looking for in leadership and from each other, we started a very strong focus on training and development. And that began with our leadership program, which Steve, as you know, and thank you again, is foundationally built on LEAP, Love, Energy, Audacity, and Proof. And so that is now an 8-month leadership development program. That's, Trailer Bridge's program. And that then led to many other training programs that we have. And just that culture of up the skills, keep getting the skills, enhance the skills. And so the leadership program was designed to, as Mitch mentioned, when he came on board, everybody was kind of doing their own thing. And I think we recognized really early in 2015 that, wow, we need to come together and have one way we're going to do things. And, Mitch said, well, here's my favorite book on leadership, and it was yours. And so I read it, and we developed the program, and that's going on still. Last year put a little bit of a wrinkle in it because we chose not to do that virtually, but we're picking that back up this year. And so that culture of training and that mindset of constantly developing, we also didn't slow down on that. And in fact, in 2020, we were set to launch a large upskilling initiative throughout the entire company, identifying what each of our employees needed over the next 4 years. Mitch mentioned our business target that we want to hit in 4 years. Well, the executive and leadership team, we all kind of said, well, we've got to get our people trained. And when you hire a lot of type A go-getters, they want to learn and grow. So we have to grow to give them a place to grow, but we have to teach them too, because they're hungry for that. Top talent is, they don't want to sit still. So at the beginning of 2020, we're poised rather to launch this big company-wide upskilling initiative. And as we all know, Mr. COVID showed up, but we decided to do it anyway. And so right in the middle of everything going on, business is great. We're training people like crazy all over the place. And I think the skill sets that were enhanced out of that were pretty cool. We've seen a lot of changes with that. But just as important, I think the heartfelt feedback that we've gotten from the employees, what that meant to them to still feel invested in and cared for, even through, a time that they saw other loved ones and partners and friends and family that were struggling in workplaces, that we came about it just the opposite. And we were like, oh no, we're just going to plow right through this. And I tell you what, I'm so glad we did.
Again, it strikes me as what you guys are doing. It's that combination of the tangible or material and the relationship element. I'm still hearing both. Some of our employees' families didn't have laptops for their kids to use who are now having to go to school at home. So we got them for them. That's really powerful. And it's so tangible, and it's something they'll never forget. And we're continuing our training and making sure that they're supported and keeping people connected. That's the more the relationship and the skill side of things. It's all the above versus just, as some places will do, just throw money at people or throw benefits at people. And not that that's bad. It's a great thing. But in a vacuum, it's nowhere near as meaningful as the way that you guys are approaching it.
Yeah, I think that at the beginning of this COVID, one of the things I noticed in a lot of other companies was I saw leadership hiding, right? Because they didn't know. What do you tell the employees? What do you say? They're gonna have questions. I don't know what to do. And they're like, not coming out of the office or not communicating, is sitting at home. We did the opposite. We were out front. We said we're not changing our path. And in March, I looked at all of them. I said, I know you have a lot of, like we talked about, spouses and families been laid off. We've seen it happening in our industry a lot. I promise you all that I will not lay off, unless you deserve to be terminated, lay off a single employee up to July 1. I make that promise. I don't know what's going to happen between March and July 1. I make that promise to you. If we fight through this, we will be stronger on the back side of this than we were on the front side of this. And at the time, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Are we going to be like, I don't know what this COVID thing's going to do to us. I don't know how it's going to tear us apart potentially, but we're going to do everything we need to do to protect our employees and make sure you have that job. And then in June, there was a June town hall. I was like, we're not laying anybody off. We've fought through this and we're kicking ass. Let's just keep going and growing. So, and that's what we did.
Fantastic.
And we hired 55 employees. And
did.
Out of 220, we hired 55. There is no other company out there that hired 25% of and it's not because people left. It's because we were growing.
55 employees since what time frame?
2020. In the year, 25% of our staff we hired in 2020. We were bringing people on, not letting them go.
Yeah, it's kind of unusual nowadays, unless you work for something like Zoom, for example.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hey, Andy, I want to go back one more time to the training element of things, because I know that's a passion of yours.
It is.
So it was one of the things that you and Mitch kind of decided on early on in your tenure there, right? A little background on this. The way that I first heard the Trailer Bridge story was that you, Andy, and several of your colleagues came to San Diego for our Extreme Leadership Facilitator certification.
We did.
And so all that had happened had started before we even met, which is really wonderful. But so it started basically with Mitch handing you the Radical Leap, saying,
yeah,
you turned into something.
Absolutely. I had joined in July, and a couple of weeks in, I realized that all of the members of leadership there at the time, we weren't really united. We didn't have this kind of collective mindset of how this culture was changing, and it was becoming very vibrant and dynamic, but that's great. But then leadership has to be able to keep doing that. And certainly, I think we all knew we were going to grow. That meant more people. That meant more people needed to be able to instill that sense of, vibrancy and our why, and excited about what we were doing. And so, to Mitch's great credit, I went into him and I said, you know what, Mitch, I think we need a program that is going to bring our methodology of leadership together. And I'd like to put one together. And anybody who's familiar with your materials, Steve, knows an OSM. I had one that day because Mitch says, "Oh, go for it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, now I got to go do it." And so
no shit moment for the NSP.
I expected to have to pull out a chart and run a graph. And he's like, "Oh, great. That sounds great. Go for it." And I said, "Okay, well," and we talked a couple more times, and I said, "Well, what is your philosophy? What do you want to be for this to look like with our leaderships?" And that's when he handed me your book. And so I read it over that weekend. I mean, it was just that fast, and came back in, and that following Monday, I said, I got it. I get this. I can plug into this, and I'm going to go put something together. And I did. And so we've been doing that ever since. It has morphed and grown, and it's certainly much prettier than it was before, much more fun, I think, Mitch. I got a little more sophisticated with my graphics and things, but I think the content from the beginning, and thank you, Steve, for the foundation of that. Yeah, Radical Leap, that's the book. And so true that when you foundationally start everything from a place of love, it changes all those other things, including the tough love decisions. But we rolled that out, and we're on our 7th group right now. We'll be starting our 8th group the end of this year or the beginning of next year. And now it's longer, it's spread out, it's covering more areas of leadership. And that's an important one. All of our leaders go through that, and people that are identified as being leadership material are up and comers, if you will. And so that originally it was designed to bring us all together and how we wanted to lead our people and keep this incredible culture that we have going. But we also have to think about that next generation of leaders. How do we get them in? We have all these new people joining us. We have to be ready for that growth and to keep it going. So we keep doing that every year, and it changes. We add things and as needed where we are in the company, but absolutely every year we're still doing that.
No, it gets back to that, the question that I asked earlier about being, did you ever in the beginning get very clear about the intent of what you were trying to do? And that's where training, all kinds of training, fits in when it's done right. It's teaching the skills, whether it's leadership training or any other kind, teaching the skills that they need to thrive in their company, right? But when it comes to leadership training, what a lot of companies will do is they'll say, yeah, we could use some better leaders around here, so let's bring in a training program, and that ought to do it. Now, that can work with individual leaders. I mean, it can turn some lights on, and it can be a good investment, but it doesn't hold a candle to what you guys are doing, because you're working on the whole picture. So the training is about the culture, and the culture leads into the training, and that's the magic formula. I've been doing this leadership development stuff for 30 years now, and I've seen all kinds of companies do it and try it all kinds of ways. And, the conventional wisdom says real change has to start from the top down.
Yep.
And, that's the ideal scenario. It's not always an option. Sometimes you have to initiate the change from within. So in some cases, Mitch, your personal story within Trailer Bridge is an example of both, because you did engineer this, if that's the right word, from the top down, but you didn't start at the top. You started as VP of logistics. You showed what you can do there through your style in your team, And then you had the opportunity to expand that to the whole company. So I just think that's a great example for all of us to say, well, I'm not the CEO. So what can I do? Well, you start where you are and see what kind of an impact you can make from there.
Absolutely. I think there's an element though of, I remember going, I guess it was a few years ago now, was San Diego to your event and having the fortunate opportunity to speak with you and all the individuals that were there. And there's one young lady that asked a question that if her leadership doesn't believe in this, how do you do this? And I can't recall the author that was up on stage at the time, but it was day one. He had said, well, if you can start it at your level and hopefully and ultimately try to change them and show them. And then when I spoke the next day, I remember I specifically pointed her out and I said, leadership can kill it pretty quick, right? I mean, that's the hardest thing. And if they don't believe it, you can do all you want and you go to drive some of these initiatives and you're like, no, am I making money? What's my ROI on this? And you're like, yeah, well, I can't technically put a solid ROI on this, but leadership still has to be involved. And I did have the fortunate opportunity to see things from a different view before I got the opportunity to make the decision, right? To say, okay, now it's me on the line and I get to make this decision. And I think the great thing that Indy developed inside that leadership program was it's the aha moment that all these leaders get. They finally go, oh, I get it. Aha. They get it. And then they go, I understand. I may not be able to do all of these things, but I can have my impact, as Steve, as you talk about, changing the world. It's not the whole globe. It's your world that you're in. Change the world. And that really resonated when they saw, because it's tough to put this on paper or to, hey, read this and you'll get what leadership style is. It takes 6 to 8 days to understand what our leadership style is and what our purpose is inside the organization. And that's, we're very fortunate. It's one of my favorite moments is leading that, getting the opportunity with Indy to lead that, because seeing their eyes, like this first day, they're just like, yeah, whatever. And the second day, you start catching a few. The third day, you're like, oh, there's another one. Fourth day, and by the time you get that fifth, sixth day, they're soaking it in. Like they just can't get enough. They don't want to end. They want to keep going. You're like, perfect.
And I'm lucky. I have Mitch, and I knew from that coffee shop right from the very beginning. I didn't know how it was actually tactically going to roll out, but I did. I felt very strongly that I understood where he wanted to go, and I knew that I had that support, provided I delivered on those things, and I came up with some ideas that we could roll out, and we didn't know all of them were going to work. We do a company-wide feedback thing, and a lot of people had not done that, where they offer feedback to each other about their performance and what they like and don't like about each other and how to get better. And so a lot of training around the intention of that, which is it's all well-intentioned. I'm here to support you. I'm here telling you, try not to say something that way anymore. This will make you better. And so that takes a while. Our new people, their eyes get really big the first time they do that. When we tell them it's anonymous, they don't always believe us, but we do. And so I know that I'm lucky. I have the support for that and the leadership program. And Steve, as Mitch was saying, it is the most fun I have at work, developing those and leading those with him. Mitch and I are still doing that. We're still co-facilitating that program. And I honestly wouldn't have it any other way.
That's fantastic. By the way, that speech that you mentioned, Mitch, for those that are listening, it's actually, I published it as one of the podcast episodes. It is episode number 7, as a matter of fact.
Wow. Lucky number 7. I like it.
Yeah. Back when we were babies. I think we're up to like 50 something now. So I encourage folks to go back and check that out. I think we put the video up there as well. You can listen to it or watch it. Or both.
There was, yeah.
So, I was just reflecting on this, kind of a full circle feeling that I'm having, in that we met originally through you guys coming out to San Diego because you'd already been working with the material and you developed the radical leap, the radical edge, greater than yourself, all into these wonderful modules or experiences at Trailer Bridge. And then the full circle experience is, my most recent book, Love is Just Damn Good Business, to have Trailer Bridge in there as a case study and an example. And then now to have you guys on the show to hear you talk about it together, it just it feels really good.
People take a lot of pride. Like I have several of those in my office at work, and when people come in and they talk about, they hear about you, and then they read the books, they're like, oh, it's just so exciting. Oh, have you read the latest? And they go, no. I go, I've got one right here. And I hand it to them, and they're like, they get so excited. They're like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, have at it. Good luck. And so what's interesting is people they understand a lot of the books we use, and they get ahead. They're like, oh, I'm going to leadership. I'm going to read all these ahead of time. I'm going to know what they're going to teach me. And I'm like, it's not going to work like that, but good luck.
Well, I encourage people to do that. That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
So as folks, I know you guys have been posting some pretty cool stuff on LinkedIn. I know, Mitch, you had a couple of great articles that I reshared at my LinkedIn. But for folks that would like to learn more about Trailer Bridge, connect with you guys somehow, what's the best avenue or avenues for them to do that?
Well, certainly LinkedIn is a great one that you just mentioned. I'm also at Trailer Bridge, so you could reach out to Trailer Bridge to my email, which is Bollman, and then my last name at trailerbridge.com.
Cool.
And then certainly our website, trailerbridge.com. It's
Yeah.
a great place to get caught up on what we're doing. Check out that TB12, which we remind ourselves all the time to live by. And I'd love to hear from people.
Great. So we'll put a link to the TB12 in the show notes, so people can go check that out and look at the Trailer Bridge website. I'll put up a couple of videos there as well, and I'll put your LinkedIn profile so people can connect with you there. I wouldn't be surprised if you got one or two job applicants out.
Well, listen, no joke. Our marketing is very employee and culture centric, and a lot of our applicants come in because of that very message right there. Our services are in there too, but I gotta tell you, our customers like seeing the kind of culture that we have. I think they equate how happy our employees are with how they're going to be treated. And you know what? They're absolutely right.
Well, guys, thank you for taking the time with me and with us this morning. It's been a great pleasure. I can't wait to see you hit the 750 million spot. That's going to be cool. Let's do a reunion podcast.
There you go. I like it.
Let's do it.
And after the world opens up again, I'd love to come out and pay a visit to you guys. One last little color commentary. I came out and spent the day with you guys, it was a few years ago now. And I will never forget walking through the open area in the middle of the office at the end of the day and having to duck for my life.
The guns? Yeah. The dart guns were out?
Yeah, the Nerf guns.
Nerf guns?
So you just walk through like target practice. Just somebody walks. I would do it was hilarious.
We all have
everybody shooting at me all of a sudden.
Yeah, and every single person there's a little kid. So the kid comes out.
Fantastic. It's not the typical sort of a thing that you see in a shipping and logistics company. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. And thanks to you all for tuning in. Until next time, do what you love in the service of people who love what you do.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Love is Just Damn Good Business with Steve Farber. Join us again next time, because when customer and employee satisfaction just isn't enough anymore, we are here to back you up with specific ideas to operationalize love to make an enormous difference in your business, personal life, and the world around you. Visit our website at stevefarber.com to leave a review. And don't forget to share the love with your colleagues and friends, because after all, it's just damn good business.